Calvin Champagne 7 in my comment section saying that I have the most absurd movie ratings he has ever seen. Are my movie ratings that bad? Spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you, he's kind of right to be a little annoyed with my rating system. So as a movie fan, you and I both like to rate our movies after we end up watching them. We have to give them some sort of structure, right? As to whether we liked the movie, didn't like a movie, how well did you like the movie compared to the one that you watched last week? And as much as I do think that I have a great movie rating system, I haven't really done a great job of explaining how I rate my movies and what triggers a 3-star movie versus a 4-star movie or a 2-star movie. I've tried to do it in a couple videos, and each time that I get done with recording, then I'm like, am I explaining it in a way that other people understand? Because in my head, it all makes sense to me. This is the way that I rate movies for the last 20, 25 years. But over time, I've sort of simplified it a little bit to make it a little easier on myself to be like, okay, this is how I'm going to consistently rate my movies going forward. Basically, just to kind of make sure that I'm on the same page with myself in 2025 as I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Now, every time I take a look at my Letterboxd ratings and all the movies that I have watched over the years, I'm generally pretty happy and satisfied with the way that I've rated them, ranked them, and I'm like, that's pretty much how I am. If you know who I am, you kind of know the style of movie that I like and don't like. Now, all systems are very personal and unique. At the base of it all, it's all very subjective, right? A 5-star for you is going to be different than a 5-star that I am going to have. And at times it is nice to be on the same page as others with the way that you see a movie, view it, where you're like, oh my God, we both love that movie. But it doesn't bother me to know that I am on a different page as you when it comes to, did you enjoy that movie? Did you like it? You liked it, but I didn't. And the same goes with my family, my wife, and my 2 boys. We don't always agree on the movies that we all like, that we all think are really, really good. Now, I do enjoy knowing that, especially with my 2 boys, they are 19 and 21, that they have completely different values and styles of movies that they like and don't like. Sometimes we do overlap with a few of the movies, but a lot of times it's just, whether it's different generational things or it's just a different stage in life, I acknowledge and accept the fact that my boys, even my wife, sometimes we just have different tastes in movies. It doesn't bother me. And I'm glad that we all as a family feel comfortable in just coming out and just saying, hey, I liked it. Great, you didn't. I mean, for example, my 19-year-old loves Dune, but hates It's a Wonderful Life and Up. 2 movies that I really love. My wife loves Fantastic Mr. Fox, a movie that I'm a little cool on, but she is not a fan of 3 movies that I really like: Her, Dunkirk, and Ex Machina. So having a subjective movie rating system is going to ruffle some feathers sometimes, or it's going to draw the interest of people out there in the YouTube comments, which it did, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. So let's see if I can do this again better this time in describing how I rate my movies. When I get done watching a movie, pretty simple, I ask myself, did I like that movie? If the answer is no, it automatically goes into the 2-star category. So whether the movie is well received, had tons of accolades, won a lot of awards, if I didn't like the movie, it's going to be a 2-star movie. So we're talking things like Raging Bull, Birdman, La La Land, The Brutalist. Those are movies that I think a lot of people kind of like more than I did, that are award-winning type movies that I'm just like, I didn't attach myself to it. There was just something that I didn't get from it. I didn't like it. It's a 2-star movie for me. That's where I think some people don't necessarily agree with my rating system, is movies that I don't like that are technically good movies based off of awards and all that stuff also sit with the movies that are just not very good, like the next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank. The Last Skywalker and most of the Star Wars sequels are going to sit with Charlie's Angels and Dune 1 and Dune 2. But let's go to the flip side of things. Let's say we come out of a movie and I did like that movie. So now we have to determine whether that's going to be a 3, 4, a 5-star movie. So if it was a movie that I liked, but I don't necessarily want to spend any money to go buy a physical copy to keep that in my physical collection, in my movie collection here in the house. And the big thing here, the key thing here is spending money to buy a physical copy of that movie that I liked it so much. If I don't, that's a 3-star film. But if it's a movie that I liked and I'm like, you know what, I would buy the 4K or Blu-ray copy of that movie because I've got to have it here. That right there would be considered a 4-star movie. 4-star movies, I am willing to commit my actual limited budget, my actual limited funds towards buying a copy of that film. Whereas a 3-star movie, I'm like, I liked it, but I don't necessarily need it in my physical media collection. So now the fun thing is, okay, well, what's the difference between my 4-star and my 5-star movies? Well, my 5 stars, I have a hard limit on there. And the best way right now that I can kind of explain that to people that don't necessarily understand why I limit the number of 5-star movies that I have in my movie rating system, I can only have 10. So the way I look at my 5-star movies is I have 10 movies. If I was leaving Earth forever, this is like Interstellar and I'm going to the next star system or something, and we only had space to take 10 movies, that is what I'm going to classify and categorize as my 5-star movies. Now, after all 10 spots are filled up, which they are, if I come across another movie down the road that I'm like, oh man, that there could contend as a 5-star movie, I would love to have that in my collection. I'm willing to spend money, and that's also one that I would take on this trip wherever. I have to have, this is one of the 10 movies I can't live without. Well, if that's going to be a 5-star movie in my movie rating system, I would have to replace it with a movie that's already there. There's a cost associated with being a 5-star movie. So if we take a look at the 5-star movies that I have so far that I am taking with me that I cannot live without, we are talking Beauty and the Beast, Django, The Godfather 2, Lost in Translation, Boogie Nights, Moulin Rouge, Goodfellas, Braveheart, Saving Private Ryan, and Catch Me If You Can. Now, I love like Inception. I love 1917. Several other movies that I am just a huge fan of, Black Hawk Down, The Pianist. Those I would also just really want to give it 5 stars. But my thing is, okay, which one of my 5-star movies am I willing to move out and swap places with? Nothing is free in this world, and nothing is free when it comes to making it a 5-star movie. So hopefully that kind of shows you the difference between how I view and rate my 5 stars with my 4 stars and why I also would have my 4.5 stars. My 4.5 stars are ones to where I'm like, I want any and every reason to make those a 5-star movie, but I can't find a movie that's currently sitting at 5 stars that I would swap places with it. And that is a hard 10. That's a hard limit of 10 movies only that I will label as a 5-star movie. Now, over time, if my 4.5 stars start building up and it's starting to make me feel bad about it, we're not here to stress out about movies, right? Movies are something that are supposed to bring joy and are supposed to detach us from the real world. We're supposed to have a good time with movies, right? So if I ever get to the point to where it just bothered me that I can't make more 5-star movies, it's not a big deal. I'll just increase that limit from 10 to 15 or 20. But I do think it's important for me to make a hard limit, a hard cap on my 5-star movies. There has to be a cost associated with making it 5 stars. It has to mean something. So to recap, my 5-star movies are the 10 movies I cannot live without. If we are going on an interstellar journey somewhere and I can only take 10, those are going to be my 10 movies. My 4-star movies are ones that where I would spend money to buy a physical copy to have it in my collection. I need those films in hand in my physical media collection that I absolutely love those movies. 3 stars are movies that I like, but I'm not spending my money necessarily getting those or buying a physical copy of that movie, but I did like the movie. Now, hopefully that is the easiest, most concise way for me to explain my movie rating system. So let's take a look at the comment that we received on my initial video of explaining my movie rating system and why it bothered this person. And spoiler alert, I'm going to tell you, he's kind of right to be a little annoyed with my rating system. He has some of the most absurd movie ratings I have ever seen. So, of course, I had to ask Calvin if he wouldn't mind just expanding on his comment about how absurd my ratings are. Like, which one of my movies did I overrate or underrate so much that they're absurd? And he actually responded with a great comment here. Calvin writes, for me, the largest issue I had with the rankings was the 2.5 out of 5 list, like La La Land and Jim Carrey's Grinch being on the same tier as the newer gen Star Wars movies. And I don't know if that's a slap to the Star Wars movies or La La Land and the Grinch, but we'll keep reading. I think I also remember seeing The Incredibles sitting at 3.5. And having Dune 1 over Dune 2, which you explained that you didn't really care for them, which I get. But of course, that's the beauty of objectiveness. And for the Letterboxd, I have completely decided to restart. I absolutely hated and disagreed with most of my past picks, so it's about as blank as of current, but I am working on it. LMAO. So I had actually asked Calvin if I am showing all of my cards, if I am showing my ratings on the movies that I have watched, I want him to acknowledge a movie that I had overrated or underrated, and then I wanted to see his letterbox so I can look at his movies and how he's rated his. It's only fair, right? I get to see his. I show mine. Let's see yours. And then the best follow-up comment from somebody just out of the blue responding to Calvin saying, oh, wow, a person actually responding to criticism on the internet without crashing out. Good job, Calvin. And that was from Colonel Heidi 45. And when I read that, I'm like, I'm the one that was responding to the criticism. I was the one being criticized. I thought I handled that pretty good, but Colonel Heidi here is giving Calvin the kudos for not crashing out and giving a good response. And I do agree with the Colonel here that Calvin did give me a very good response. And I understand where he is coming from with his comment. The problem that Calvin is pointing out is with the movies that I don't like right off the bat, we are marking those under a 3. So they're getting a 2 or a 2.5 stars. After that, I don't pay them much attention, nor do I try to invest the time to differentiate between the movies on which one is technically better or not. So yes, I mean, it is kind of crazy to think that I have the new Star Wars movies with movies like the Academy Award winning La La Land, Jim Carrey's Grinch, which I know a lot of people like. I just didn't care for either of those two films. So how can I put Academy Award winning La La Land down at a 2.5 stars, down with the sequel trilogy of Star Wars? So Calvin technically does have a point. I will give to you that La La Land is probably a much better film than any of the sequel trilogies of Star Wars that I have listed down there with La La Land. Jim Carrey's Grinch, you can throw that in there too. But the way that I do my rating system, if I don't like a movie, it automatically gets a 2 and that's it. I don't worry about it. But it is something that I've thought about before, that all of the movies that I don't like, because I just give them a 2-star or a 2.5 star, which we determined before that the half stars are ones to where I might go back and rewatch a movie. Those are ones that I'm like, I was kind of iffy on one way or the other, and I am open to changing my mind on different films. I have shown that I have come around over time and changed my mind on films that I initially didn't like. Chicago, Moulin Rouge, which is now a 5-star movie, in my opinion. I did not like that movie when it first came out. The first couple times I watched it, I didn't like it. But yes, it'll be great YouTube fodder at some point to where I go back and all of my 2-star movies, I kind of break it down and kind of layer them a little bit more to where we have 2.5, 2, and then maybe go down into the 1 and 1.5. But at that point, I'm like, why am I spending that much time on movies that I don't like, where I could be spending a lot more time on movies that I do like, my 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star movies? Bottom line, Mr. Calvin here, I do appreciate the comment, and this is a great example of a dialogue on YouTube in the comments that you can have in the realm of movies. It doesn't all just go down into the cesspool, the cesspit of comment sections, and everybody just loses their minds and talking down to everybody. We're all kind of movie fans, and we all have our own likes and our dislikes. And tip of the cap, sir, to you, Mr. Calvin, for giving a great response back to me, so you can kind of further explain where you're coming from and hopefully give me the opportunity to explain where I'm coming from.